A few months back, I got this laptop right here. It is a old laptop. It's got a Windows 7 logo on it, and also it costed $5. Now I had to get a charger for the laptop, which costed another $10, so that makes the laptop $15. And today we're gonna see what a $15 laptop can do in 2022. Can it game? Who knows? Let's find out. Cosmetically, the laptop looks like it got chained to the back of a car and dragged down the interstate at 95 miles an hour. So it is completely covered with scratches and dings everywhere. One impact is so large, it broke the clips off to hold the screen bezel in one area. And then there's my favorite quirk of the laptop. This right here. There is this weird ovally shaped thing that is smashed inside of the laptop. And I can see the motherboard through it. Yeah, it's basically sitting on the motherboard right now. It's fine. Let's not even bother with it. Let's just pretend it's not there. So the screen works luckily, and the BIOS in the laptop is, well, it's very plain. There's not really any fun little buttons I can press to overclock this or anything. It's just a very basic laptop. Booting the laptop takes me to this no booting device detected screen, which is very assuring something's not broken. I went to take a look to see what is wrong with the hard drive, and I came across the wrong panel, and I took it off, and there is apparently one stick of RAM in here, which is very assuring for fast performance. It is a single 2GB stick of DDR2. And yeah, that's my problem. There is no hard drive in the laptop, which is a slight bummer, but at the same time though, at least I have another hard drive sitting around. The hard drive I'm using is a 320GB Western Digital hard drive from June 13th, 2011, which is a very old hard drive, as Windows Vista just came out 5 months before this hard drive was made, but the hard drive still works like it should, so I'm going to use it. Even though this hard drive already has Windows 10 on it, I'm going to reinstall Windows 10, so I have a fresh installation of Windows 10 to work with on here. And yes, I am using the DVD once again to install Windows 10, because I forgot where my USB thumb drive with Windows 10 on it is, and I couldn't be asked to make another one. And to install Windows 10 took 50 minutes, not 15, 50, and that is quite a long time. That is longer than it should take with a DVD. With a DVD, it normally takes around 38 minutes. So something is definitely up. I'm assuming it is the RAM here, because 2GB just barely meets minimum requirements for Windows 10. Now, using Windows 10 right after the install with Windows updates in the background, to say it lightly, is horrid, okay? The hard drive is at 100% the entire time, and for once, I don't normally see this. Windows 10 was hitting 100% RAM usage. Yes, 100% of the RAM was being used. Normally it maxes out at 97 to 99%, but 100% I almost never see. I don't even think I saw it in the video where I put 1GB of RAM in my laptop and ran Windows 10 64-bit on it. Installing everything was working quite smoothly until I installed Discord. Then it was giving me some sort of Java error, which I actually never had happen before. Though I fixed it by installing Java manually, but still though, that is somewhat weird. The laptop was running horribly slow even after Windows updates, so what I did was I went over and tossed in 4GB of RAM instead of 2GB of RAM to hopefully fix the issue, because the hard drive did not go down from 100% usage no matter what. It was neck deep into the page file. Also, if I had an SSD in the computer, it would probably be a different story and it would have probably ran fine, but I don't have an SSD for this computer, and it probably didn't come with an SSD either. Booting into Windows was a lot faster with 2GB of RAM, and also the computer felt a lot more responsive, and it also had about 2GB of RAM free, which is nice. Then I ran a Blender open data test on the AMD Athlon M300, and I was running the version 3.1.0, and I got a score of 3.36. I don't know if that's good or not, but that's what I got on Blender. Then I wanted to run a 3D Mark test, though the iGPU, which is a AMD Mobility HD 4100, does not meet any of the requirements for any of the 3D Mark the little test things. So, yep, sorry, there's no 3D Mark tests for this. Here's something. The graphics chip in MSI Afterburner is actually already overclocked, which is a first. Then I ran a Cinebench R23 run, and it got a score of 429, which is not that bad. The last video I reviewed a $80 laptop, and it got a score of the same basically. At least at the stock settings. Once I removed some power limits, the score went up to around 700, but at least stock-wise, this is as fast as a brand new laptop. Now it's time to download some games and see how this laptop games. games. The first game up on the list is Muck. I really thought this game would run fine on this because it is a rather light game. But no, the graphics chip is at 100% usage and the CPU is barely even being used in the menu, and it's getting 2 frames per second. Yes, 2 in the menu. In a Muck world, it is still getting 2 frames per second. I think it's time to start lowering down some settings. I'm going to be turning the settings from Ultra all the way down to the lowest possible setting to see what happens. Okay, 6 FPS, that's a bit of an improvement. Okay, let's start playing with the resolution. This is still horrible. Alright, 800 by 600 is getting 10 frames per second. That's an improvement, barely. Still horrible. 640 by 480 is getting 13 frames per second. Okay, maybe this is not meant for Muck. The next game up on the list is Minecraft Bedrock on the lowest possible settings on a world, and it was getting around 50 to 60 frames per second the whole time, which is pretty nice. Then I tried to go over and turn on some fancy leaves, because I know fancy leaves are really intensive in Minecraft Bedrock, and once again that's shown to be proven, because I was getting roughly 40 frames per second this time instead of 50 to 60. So, lesson learned, don't use fancy leaves in Minecraft Bedrock. I also tried to blow up roughly 1,000 TNT, and the laptop didn't die or anything. It actually went through and didn't crash, so that was nice. Then I tried playing with fancy leaves off, and also having the render distance up to 8 instead of 5, and it actually did run, but it was somewhat laggy. It was around 40 frames per second. But yeah, if you wanted to play Minecraft Bedrock on this, you could with a 30 plus FPS experience with relatively no issue. Not bad for 15 bucks. The next game up on the list is Minecraft Java 1.18.2 with the sodium mod on the absolute lowest settings, including 2 chunks render distance. And if you can see through this screen glare, it's getting between 40 and 50 frames per second with somewhat large lag spikes, so it is somewhat playable, but not great. Then I got a little bit brave, and I turned the render distance up to 8 chunks, and I thought, maybe it might run. No, I was horribly wrong. It was getting between 15 and 25 frames per second, and it was also a stuttery mess, as always, so that was not very good. I did find a performance and render distance sweet spot, as you might say. What I did was I lowered it, but raised it from 2, and I lowered it from 8, and I put it between and put it at 4, and it was getting about 30 frames per second. Again, not great, but at the same time though, it mostly only lags when you load in new chunks that you haven't been to. If you're loading up chunks you've been into before, that's when it starts lagging. So if you don't really travel that much and have it at 4 chunks render distance, this wouldn't actually be that bad if you don't mind not being able to see further than like 5 feet in front of you. In the last video about the $80 laptop, somebody told me to try out some 2D games on these older and weaker laptops because 2D games run a lot better than 3D games like Minecraft. So I checked out Brawlhalla because it is a rather easy to run game, and well, I was expecting it to lag at least a little bit, but I was completely wrong. On the, well, there's not really that many graphical settings. I guess it would be considered high settings because it's full screen, 768p. It was running at a smooth, well, I'm assuming smooth, 60 frames per second. I can't get a frame rate counter working on the game for some reason, but the game is capped to 60 frames per second anyway. And also, the CPU and graphics chip were not maxed out either. So yeah, it was a perfectly playable and flawless experience. I cannot complain in the absolute slightest on it. The next game up on the list is DOTA 2, and I don't know if it's a 2D game or a 3D game. It looks like a 2D game to me, but it apparently is 3D, I don't know. But basically, just in the menu, it was getting 15 frames per second because the graphics chip was pegged at 100%. So I promptly turned absolutely every single setting in the game to the absolute minimum to hopefully give this a chance. And at 640 by 480, DOTA 2 was somewhat playable. It was getting between 12 and 20 frames per second, which is not great at all, but it is also a 2D game, and it doesn't seem like it needs that fast reaction time, so I guess you can get by on it, but still it's not a very good experience. And also, I don't know exactly how hard the game is to play because I didn't know what I was doing in the absolute slightest. And to top it all off with Dota 2, I was clicking at something and the game black screened and crashed. The next game up on the list is CSGO, and I actually thought this game would run with relatively no issues. Maybe not smooth, but I figure it would at least get around 15 to 30 frames per second. Well, at least on the default settings in the menu, it was getting 2 frames per second, so I promptly went over and turned all of the graphical settings all the way down to the minimum, and then I tried getting into a CSGO game, and well, that's when I started having a lot of issues. The game would just never stop crashing when I tried to actually get into a game, so it is not really that playable. It says I can't find the file, but at the same time though, the game's launched. I thought it was crashing due to the graphics chip, which again is the ATI Mobility Radeon HD 4100i GPU, though it technically does meet the minimum requirements because it supports DirectX 10.1 and the game only requires DirectX 9. So yeah, I have no idea what is up with that. Probably wouldn't run though good because according to Tech Power Up, a GT 210 is 90% faster than this, so it's half the speed basically of a GT 210. The next game up on the list, well, okay, it's not even the next game up on the list because it didn't run. It's New World and it didn't like the graphics card, so yep, no New World for us today. The next game up on the list, or should I say not on the list, is BeamNG Drive, because it as well disliked the graphics chip in my computer. I don't blame it though, it's a horrible graphics chip, but yeah, I didn't like it so it didn't launch. Though one game that actually did launch is Roblox Arsenal, though it almost looked like it wouldn't be playable, at least from the menu. The reason why is when everything was loading in, houses and buildings in the background were flickering in and out, which is not a very assuring sign, is it? But once I got into a game, it was getting around 15 frames per second on the 768p, which is not great, but it's okay. Then I lowered the resolution down to 800 by 600, and the game was getting between 25 and 35 frames per second, which is a lot better. So it was somewhat playable with 800 by 600 resolution on the lowest settings. That also doesn't make that much sense. The reason why is at 768p, the graphics chip actually wasn't maxed out, and it's still not maxed out at, you know, 600p, so I don't know. But it helps, so that's all that matters. And then let's just go over web browsing real quick. Web browsing on it is completely fun. It is not that snappy. Yes, it is somewhat slow. It does slow down at times, but keep in mind, it's not an i9. It's a $15 laptop. It's not going to actually be like an i9 on gigabit internet. But it's perfectly usable, a lot better than the one-core computer that I put an RTX 3060 in a previous video. In a future video, I might try out some other games, like GTA 5 on this computer and see how it handles it. So stay tuned for that. But one way or another, I want to say thank you so much for watching today's video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave it a like. But one way or another, I will see you again in the next video. Have a great day. See ya.